Good afternoon and welcome to the Tuesday, September 6th, 2022 wastewater treatment plant conference room and the Water and Sewer Commission meeting. I think first thing is to open up the meeting to public participation. Anybody from the public like to comment? Not seeing anyone. Peter, you can interrupt me if we go to two and anybody weighs in. Two, stormwater moment. I love these. Bill, I feel like I'm going back to class. Go ahead.
As you can see in your paperwork, the presentation on 7 simple steps to create a rain garden. You know, whether it's around your home, business, commercial property, or anywhere. It goes through the several steps that takes to create a lovely rain garden, as shown in the diagram.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go about. Goes about the mixtures of the soil and the compost and the sand to create the percolation down for the water through the soils and down into the ground, so it's not running off rapidly. Gives you all the criteria for making your own rain garden.
And I'm sure it's because you love the beauty of the flowers, but there's another reason why you're telling us this, right?
Yes, it's to lessen the impact of the runoff on our sewer systems.
Great.
There are several around the city.
Yeah.
They're quite orchestrated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
growing, right?
And a lot of those, where we plant new trees and things of that nature take all this into account.
Great. Any questions for Bill? Go ahead, Pete.
If you got grass, that absorbs it too, right?
Well, it's better than any impervious top, such as blacktop or cement. But yeah, these are a little bit better because a lot of times, if you have a really lush and nice lawn, it ties all the soil together. But this is a little more.
So more is
Impervious.
absorbed in a rain garden than in a typical lawn?
Yeah.
Well, normally it's channeled toward the rain garden to get
Yes.
rid of the issue of.
In a specific type of soil too.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
not like your regular topsoil you put in there. It's got a greater aggregate content in it, so it drains the water out faster.
Gotcha.
Percolation content.
In your
higher.
rain garden,
Yeah.
right? But
Correct.
I guess I was under the impression too, though, that a lawn would be just as good as a rain garden, but it's not. It's better than cement or blacktop, but it's not as good as a rain garden, right? Is that, I see that. Learn something new every day.
Can you put it on public property? My house is back setback, and there's about 20 feet or 30 feet from my house to the curb. It's public property. Can you put it on public property?
That's a good question. Sure, you're talking about that the city owns the property, the 30
right
feet
away,
frontage.
you mean?
Yeah.
What's there right now?
What?
Just lawn? What is there right now?
Oh, lawn, yeah.
Yeah, typically you can put those in the right of way, but as long as they don't interfere with anybody else that has access to the right of way, like National Grid or anybody else that might have license agreements or utility easements in that same area.
Mhm.
That would be the only drawback. But I think there you'd probably be fine because everything's above ground. You don't have any underground utilities, I don't think, in that part of the city. So,
And the same, would the same
Other
be
than sewer
true?
water.
well, yeah, but other than sewer, but that's in the road.
And would the same be true for like the right of way, the land between the sidewalk and the curb? Right now, there's grass in front of my house. If my wife decided to go ahead and plant a rain garden, that's all okay in that area?
Yes, it's just as like David said, as long as there's no easements for power or anything other than that.
Right.
You wouldn't want to do it on top of your curb stop.
I would say the downside of a rain garden is there's a higher maintenance responsibility to them. If they go unmaintained, I mean, for someone unsightly,
Yeah,
they can get out of control, you know?
It speaks to that here about weeding and
Yeah.
things of that.
Well, I know the ones
All right.
we've done in the past, we typically only encourage them in high runoff areas where we have a lot of pooling.
Okay.
Unless there's, you know, a lot of the ones that we've reviewed and approved in the past have been in areas that have had a lot of pooling, like over at the school.
Where you can direct the water to.
Yeah, where you
There's
can-
one on the corner of,
Yep.
Fire Road, it's by the Y on the corner of Glens Street.
Yep.
There's one in there. The bad part about it is some of these properties, you're gonna make a curb cut to drain the water out of the street.
Right. It's just draining the area that grass was already draining.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And it's okay to put it near what'd you call it? A sewer, not a sewer stop, but a
Curb stop.
curb stop. So that's the area that sticks out of my lawn right now, but I could put it around one.
Yeah, but you wanna make sure you have access to that in case you ever have to shut the water off
Sure.
your house.
Yeah.
And the same for a clean out for sanitary.
Sure. And if somebody decides they want to put one of these gardens in, does that come in front of the Water and Sewer Commission? Or does it, if it was or does that go in front of the planning board?
Maybe DPW, I don't know.
I don't think it goes in front of
You just
anybody
said-
if you're just doing, but if you're putting it within the right of way, you're gonna have to contact DPW.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. All right. Any other questions? Something new. Number 3, billing issues.
Have no.
No billing
report
issues,
on,
anybody?
billing issues?
I know we're still working on the budget, right? You're meeting with Chip this week, right?
Yep.
To you and Mike meet with Chip, right? You've already had several meetings
Yep.
here. We got your information from your department heads, right?
Yep, and we'll continue.
Great. At what point do you, in the typical budgeting process, at what point do you, I know you come in front of the council
Mhm.
and there's an evening where you get your 30 minutes of fame where you're gonna talk about this whole budget and where it fits in. But at what point do you bring that to the sewer commission and say, this is what we're thinking?
I think, just before that.
Just before that, okay. And do you, I know that a good portion of, like, you were meeting with your department heads and you were saying, let's say, you know that you need more chemicals this year, that the prices of chemicals are going on and are going up, and you're gonna need more chlorine this year than you've needed in the past, and you're gonna have an adjustment there. And you're also talking to people, you're, again, department head, and he says to you, we'd really like 3 new pumps. And you go, that'd be great, but we don't have the money in the budget for that. We might be able to get 1 pump this year. Do you talk to the Water and Sewer Commission, and if so, is there the things that you know you need but you're not buying this year because you can't really afford them? And that's fine. Like, I'm not questioning it, but I'm wondering if I know in other departments, let me say it this way, that document doesn't exist. And I would like to share those kinds of things with the Common Council. It says this is the budget that you and the Water and Sewer Commission are going to put forward. And it has a 1%, 2% increase, right? And it counts using these fund balances, or it doesn't, right? And whatever that situation is. But what I'd like to see is another document that says these are the other things that we know we need, but we're put off because we can't afford them this year. And that way, at least then the commission,
Together priority.
yeah, prioritize, right? And that's
Sure.
what you are doing. But I'm wondering about the unprioritized items.
Well, normally
If-
what we've worked in the past is we have a meeting with Bill's predecessor at the time, and Mike Regan, and he present a budget with us. Maybe we'll get a couple of days before to take a look at it. We sit down and if we have any questions, we go through. Mike's real good about putting notations in the margins about this is what this is. Half of it's sewer, half of it's water, and this is.
And that's what we've been working on, as the mayor alluded to with these meetings. that we've
Sometimes
been-
we have a special meeting and just
We've
go over the
been
budget.
meeting, we met once in July, I think we met once in August, we'll probably meet at least once or twice here. Just to your point, we're looking at financing 3 return pumps. And we figure if we can lock in the price now for the 3 and finance it over the next 3 years, it'd probably be better than us buying 1 every year as those prices are escalating.
And you're gonna have that conversation with when would you have that conversation with
I think
Water
we'll
and
probably
Sewer
start
Commission?
having those conversations next month.
Okay. All right.
I don't know if we'll be ready for this
And
workshop, but probably next month.
What I'd like is again, maybe just those notes about the things that you made decisions, and let's say you make the decision that you think that that's the best thing. I've got to get the council to approve that you guys feel that this is the right thing to do. But you also there might be some things on that you can't buy, that you know you need, but you can't afford it this year, right? We need a new, I don't know what, but that, I'd like that. I don't believe in the past that we've documented those things. And I'd like to, do we?
We have it under budget suggestions.
Okay.
We sit down with the superintendent, we go through budget suggestions, and we pick what will go through and what's not gonna go through for the year.
Great. Would you give us a list and review it with these guys as well as I want to review it with the council? Because I think it's important to know. Even if I'm not suggesting that council's going to know enough to second guess you guys. We're not, right? I know they're not.
That's just a
right?
process.
But boy, knowing of all the things you didn't buy is in my opinion, it's really good. It's a good, we didn't buy this $5 million worth of stuff because we can't afford it, and that's a good, well, we got a plan over the next 5 years to get as much of this as we can in. That's important, and I don't think that in my 8 years on the council, that I've seen that, and so I'd like to do it. I know we're not, and again, it's okay to not be buying it. We can't prioritize it right now. Right? It was last year. It was probably the $3 million electrical.
I was just going to say that's kind of in this ballpark where that got mentioned, what seems like a year and a half ago, maybe it wasn't,
Yeah.
6 months ago, but it feels like it was a long time. It was like, this is real bad and the lights might go out.
Yeah.
And then, it's like,
Yeah.
wait a second, are we doing it? But it was so expensive.
That's right.
That obviously you couldn't act right away and there needed
Nope.
to be planning. I think Steve seemed to just kind of poke his hand up and then it would go away until it was budgeted
Right.
for or affordable.
And what I'm
So it
suggesting is a
disappeared.
document that helps record that, so that we don't. We know the formalized process for approving the budget, and that's great. It's the other things that didn't make it to the budget that I'm suggesting that we want to know more about. That's
And
all.
wasn't there a system assessment done where, didn't a couple years ago, maybe I'm remembering this incorrectly, that somebody came in, an outside entity that we hired to look at all the varying equipment and systems here that gave an assessment on priority?
They keep coming in doing, efficiencies. I think we've had 4 efficiencies in 6 years.
Okay.
We have reduced our electrical usage by 40 to 50% over the last 15 years. So they're coming in and they're looking for the top of the tree stuff that is not that much
Okay.
Anymore,
anymore.
right?
I've got one now where I've got to talk to the guy on Thursday that the city has done that they included us on.
Right.
There's nothing there
Gotcha.
for us to improve on. We went from 600 horsepower blowers to a 200 and a 125. That's a 66% reduction in electricity alone on a 200.
So that's a second thing. One is the list of the things that we're putting off because they're not a priority and we can't afford them. Another would be the stories of the things that we've done over the years, like reducing the storm water. Just a paragraph. Same with the electricity. Because if we've reduced this plant's electricity usage by 40% or in the last 10 years, I think we want to know that, and I think we miss it. Maybe some of it the old mayors knew because they'd been around for a while, but I think it would really help for us to have that and for me to talk to the council about it, because it's important.
What's paying off, Mr. Mayor, is now that we look at our transformer replacement under this electrical thing, we
Yeah.
don't have to buy the same size transformers we have. We can downsize.
Great.
Saving the city money.
And so, yeah, it's awesome. Thank you. And that I want to tell that story and to answer your question and what he's referring to. And I think you all are aware that we're in the middle of the engineering. We're first had to engineer out the entire scope of work, and is that done, Jeremy, or almost done?
It's almost done.
Almost done, for the electrical system for the whole plant, and I put $2 to $3 million of ARPA money aside to cover that major expense. We just learned in the last month that we don't, that we can use grant money in addition to ARPA money, whereas the rules of ARPA up until 2 months ago were that you could not, if you were using grant money, you couldn't use the local match ARPA money, and they've now changed that rule.
You
So
alluded to that at the last meeting, you said you
Yeah.
thought it was gonna come about.
that's right,
But
and
they were gonna be able to
they
change
did,
the
finally
rules.
threw it out. So now we're moving forward on the project, and now we're also gonna look to see what grant money we might be able to get. But either way, the electrical system, we're hoping move forward in 2023. It might take 23 and 24 the way the world
Parts.
progresses, but that's there.
Well, along with those same guidelines, the more stormwater separation we do, the less they gotta process here at the plant. It's gotta save money, I don't know.
That's right.
Maybe Chris has some figures on that, but people complain about we spent $3 million on Ridge Street. We spent all this money on Dix Avenue. Well, it is eventually, it's not.
It increased our
Save-
capacity, which I
Yeah.
think if I heard Steve Gersler say, that was a shock even to us. It really did increase our
Yeah,
estimated
we gained more
capacity.
capacity at
That's
the
right.
plant because we're processing everything.
That's
so.
right. Absolutely. Okay. So, for resolutions, so we have a resolution, do we have a motion for a resolution to approve the minutes of the August 1st, 2022 minutes?
So,
All in favor?
yes.
Aye. And resolution to approve the warrant in your packet.
Any other questions?
Any I'm sorry, any questions about the warrant? Sorry.
I got one. On
Yes.
Page 5,
Page 5?
second line down, $50,000 for transmitter
Transmitters,
in our 911.
Yeah, I was. Or is that a bundle of transmitters?
Yeah, that's like,
Is that the water meter
Warranty?
transmitter?
yeah, that's
Okay.
what we purchase them in advance, is as they go bad, we replace them.
if you divide it equally, that 400 transmitters is $50,000, 125 apiece. That's not bad.
No.
Is that right? Yep, 125 a transmitter. There you go. How long, are we replacing transmitters? How long will it take us to use the 400? How many a year are we? I know we're doing it as we go through.
It's both, we're replacing the oldest ones and even, I forgot they're like Series 8s that are being replaced now. Even some of the 9s and 10s are failing, so we're replacing them at the same time. We could go through the 400 in a year, we could go through them in 8 months, it depends on
Okay.
how much failure we have.
But you're buying 50,000 of them now?
Yeah.
Okay. Or 50,000 worth,
Yeah.
400 of them in a batch. Gotcha. Okay. Any other questions about the warrant? So if no questions, do we have a motion to approve the warrant?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. And then, third resolution is, so we have approval of equipment to be auctioned off. Has everybody seen the document? Anybody have any questions about it?
I'll move the warrant.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. 5 is discussions. We'll start with Ames Goldsmith Force Main down on Sherman Avenue, Shermantown Road.
Yes, right now, Ames Goldsmith brings their waste by a truck. How many trucks a day? You know,
Up to
Chris?
5 trucks a day.
Up to 5 trucks a day. This pipeline's been in the works for several years now, bringing a 4-inch line, basically a force main, down and eliminating the truck traffic. obviously on Warren and then down to the treatment plant. And right now they've hired Roselle to go ahead and look at designing and engineering and putting it in place. As if you go by now, if you go back out, you'll notice all the markings in the road. So all the roads have been marked. We're looking at some other markings that they believe are off, so they're doing some test pitting. We're gonna go and doing some locations and we're gonna make sure that there's no no conflicts coming into the treatment plant, and so that this goes as smoothly as possible without hitting anything. I mean, they've got to go through the canal corp and the railroad. They have to cross all of those crossings. So.
Where would that originate from?
To the site on Rogers Street.
Rogers, yeah.
They're gonna come down Deer Street
Yep.
and straight down Shermantown. And then wrap around the facility on the dirt road, about the back road, because there's very few utilities back there.
And they'll come into where their tank is
So
now.
they'll still truck from Pines Island to here?
No, they're on Rogers Street.
Just right, okay.
Yeah.
To Rogers Street, you mean?
Yeah, from Rogers Street right here, and then they come into the tanks in the back out here.
And, go ahead.
Sorry. Just out of curiosity, the force main vocab seems curious to me with them being so uphill and us so down. Is that to get it around that dirt road and in to stick some pressure on it, or?
It's
It's
not
gonna be a
available.
closed system, so there's gonna be no openings, like, it's not gonna be able to flow gravity like a regular system.
Oh, because it would need to be ventilation for,
There would need to be ventilation
like
and
a-
stuff like that.
like for your house roof kind of thing?
Mhm.
I got you. I see.
And
So-
we'll have alarms and stuff like that. What's the valve, the altitude valve?
Putting an altitude valve on so that the electric fail-safe closed valve fails. There's an altitude valve that measures pressure from the bottom of the tank to the top of the tank. It's set, it will close automatically and not allow anything to come in. That's just a fail-safe. Then they have a retention system around the tank, so if it does overflow, it overflows into those pits out there, and they can pump it back into the system.
It's interesting.
I didn't know any of that. They're not looking to increase the amount, or at this point, it's just a matter of running the pipe
They wanna run it like, they would love to increase the amount, but the plant can only handle so much.
of their waste.
Before it
And
affects
so
our
you'll have,
process.
who will be responsible for monitoring how much they send to us?
They
Them?
have a flow meter, we meter what they put into our system. And then they pay 86 cents a pound.
So this'll go into the tanks that they already have on premises.
Oh, all right,
To be
sorry. Thank you.
regulated by the plant to be released into the system.
It'll be
So
slowly.
it's not a free flow right into the system.
No,
It's
it's
still
supposed to-
gonna go in
Thank you.
to the
Treated
existing
before.
structure that they put here before, so.
Yeah, that's the tank out back. That's
Jeremy and I've been going back and forth some on it with Bill, so it looks like Jeremy and Bill's concerns have been addressed, and then they're working on their permits, and then I've got to get with their attorney to work out all of the who's responsible, easements, license agreements, rights of way, all of that stuff. This was, dating back, Mayor, it goes before you, they wanted to do this 10 years ago, 15 years ago,
At least 10 years.
and when they priced it out, it was too expensive, so the solution that they came up with was the current system. Well, now apparently with prices of gas and in employee prices, perhaps they realized that that wasn't the right decision for them, so they're kind of reversing course to do it.
And this is part of the discussion process before it becomes a resolution before you use and then goes to the common.
Great.
It would come here first, then from here to the common council, but we've got to work out all of those details. And we did very similar when they put in the facilities here. They've got to be insured, they accept responsibility. If it affects the speedies permit, they're responsible for the fine. All of that language has got to be put in there to protect the city in the event that something fails on the system and we have overflow discharge and we get a fine. We want to make sure that Ames is paying for that.
How've they been? Everything been okay?
Yeah, they've been very quiet.
Good.
Quiet's good.
Much better since we got them to take responsibility for
Yeah.
what they're discharging to us,
Yeah.
right? Question about, they pay for all this,
Yes.
Yes.
right? Okay. And have we before we approve anything, we'll check with DPW, make sure we're not paving any road they're about to dig up? Or do they not dig up? Can they run the pipe underground?
So their installation methods is gonna be a combination of open cut, pipe and, directional bore underneath Warren Street. They're not gonna open cut Warren Street. So the open cuts will be on Shermantown and parts of Gear, which, I don't think Shermantown would probably be an improvement if they patch that. After they trench it, so.
Yes, 'cause they're limiting pretty up Shermantown
So that's
after this,
fine.
Encourage them to do that?
But there's also the encroachment permit process or street opening permit that they have to
Okay.
go through with that and pay a fee, so.
And you're seeing all this, and you're the keeper of the new paving lists, so you can see, you would know if there was a conflict there.
Coordinate everything. It's a lot of
I
moving
knew I
parts.
was a
Gotta go to
genius
the
at
railroad,
getting you
too.
that.
Yeah. And David, one point that I'd like to make that we have discussed with Ames, is the dig safe call-ins, when there's a request for a utility mark out, you know, like the water sewer department, we're on the dig safe list. Like, we get contacted along with like Verizon, First Light, National Grid. And because that's gonna be a private utility within a public right of way, I just wanna make sure that, I don't know if the process is that Ames has to get on the list to be contacted by Dig Safe.
Okay,
If,
So
you know,
that's
if
identifying
the
if
contractor
everybody
comes
digs.
in later on and needs a mark out,
gotcha.
just so the city isn't responsible for marking their utility. I don't think we
Okay.
want to do that.
I'm assuming that'll get marked someplace. Some kind of record of where it is and the location and all that.
There should be at the end of the project, there should be an as-built.
Yeah, they'll have the as-built on file here.
Yeah, but each time there's an excavation or a
Yeah.
shovel goes in the ground, the contractor by law has to call. And that's why you see the paint marks out there. We just need to know what mechanism they're gonna use to mark out their line. If they hire a private locator, or I think that's how I see it happening, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, I'll address that with them.
Okay.
Great. Anything more about the Ames Goldsmith Force Main? No resolution, just a discussion, right?
Mhm.
So, Park Street emergency repair,
Yeah, what was that?
how's that coming?
That was a big one.
Yeah, well,
That's a
maybe
big one. That was a sewer line that was roughly 14 feet deep under a water main, an 8-inch water main, under a 4 and 8-inch high pressure gas line. And then when we got down and we started digging, the electrical main primary line from the hospital was not located correctly. So it was probably about 6 feet off at least.
I would say at least, yeah.
So, and that was
the
the,
opposite side of the street almost.
it
where
was
they had
basically
marked
a,
it.
you know, little picture, some of the, and this was repaired once before. Nobody here seems to remember when, but you can see the white pipe is original. So that was a repair that was already made, because where all the green pipe is now, you can see the fern coal, that was all clay going to the white pipe. So at one point, this line, I don't know if it was when they put the gas in, because this picture,
Like 5 years ago, that
there's
was
two
ripped
gas
all out.
lines.
Didn't they hit something down there when they were doing one of those?
They
That was
might,
torn up several years ago, do you recall?
they did the theater.
Right, no, this was
Dutch restaurant.
prior to that, they were doing something in there, they hit a gas line or something. Or maybe it's a sewer line, but they hit something down in there.
Okay.
But I don't know, that's 14 feet deep?
14.
I don't remember if it was a long time ago.
Somebody was down there, because not
Remember
only,
Pete, it had to be 10 or 12 years ago at least.
because when we got down there, we also got to, because we thought it was broke at the chimney, it was actually broke under these gas lines. Basically, you see that.
What was broke? The sewer line was broke?
The sewer line,
That's
yes.
what we were going in to fix?
Yeah.
We find anything else broke while we were digging? Just a bunch of things not where we thought they were?
Basically, the electrical was the only one that wasn't really marked correctly. Everything else was marked.
Isn't there a vault at the end of the street?
There is. There's a couple
What kind of vault?
electrical.
So like, we had a fire in one early one morning.
Actually, there's several.
It blew the
vaults.
lid
Yeah,
off.
there are
No
several
way.
vaults there.
Yeah.
That's why we really didn't
I didn't know there was electrical
question the mark of
vaults.
the electrical.
It was
But
a
here,
few,
go through some of these pictures and you can see there's the gas line and you can see how much machinery they had with this and how big the hole was. And then you can see that steel beam, that's holding up the electrical bank. That's supporting it
What?
because we had to dig underneath it.
Yeah, so there's probably, I don't know, probably 4 conduits, or maybe more than that, but it's all encased in a concrete duct bank, which probably measures 30 by
And,
30 square.
And National Grid was on site every day, before we even located this in the wrong spot. And
Yeah,
not
so-
only that, I don't know if you can see, but there's about 2 inches of pavement, and under the pavement, there's about another 4 inches of cement. So it wasn't easy.
It was a cement road at one point,
Yeah.
and they paved over it?
Yep.
Of course.
And then they had to cut out the 8-inch water line, so you can see this is the new water line that was put in.
It services the hospital,
No,
does it?
we were able to isolate it. We had to put one valve in on the Glens Street side of it to
Okay.
isolate it. And then there was a couple of valves that actually worked. We were able to close it off and close the hydrant off. So that was the other thing. We were able to save some money too because we used all of our valves
Down the street.
and all our fittings.
To put everything inside.
That's where, you can see that's where the first go, that's where the old clay went into the PVC that was repaired.
And is that down near Elm, or is that up near, where the Ginsburg building stops? Like,
Corner of Elm and Hudson.
That's on the corner, where
Or
the
no,
clay was?
sorry,
No.
corner of Elm and Park, right?
Well, it's,
It's the.
Not by the
this-
theater?
This sewer service comes out onto Park Street and it serves, I think the address is 15 to 25 Park, which is the building that,
Like Ginsburg building?
Elizabeth Miller is renovating right now.
Yes, okay.
I don't remember what's in
you
there.
can see, that's also, if you see, that's the chimney going into our
Yes.
sewer,
Yes.
which is even lower than that.
Is it chimney?
It's what happens is it
Charlie.
comes in like this and then what they call is chimneys down.
Oh, okay.
Goes even deeper, down to a 30-inch line. And that was all cemented up. This was Friday evening, probably around 5 o'clock. They were having dinner talk, so the contractor wetted the road, swept the road so we got all the dirt off the road. And then they were having a wedding the next day, and they were also having a band Friday night there. So we tried to make it as clean as we possibly could.
They did that, I was doing sound for that band, and that street went from World War II exploded crater to just tidy construction site in about an hour. I can't believe how much they filled in just to dig up the next day. They were quick and fast with it.
And then you can see that with when they found the clay, the original clay valve there. And there's the water line that was cut out and then replaced, and the 2 gas lines right next to it. So it wasn't very easy repair. Had to be very careful digging, the contractor did a pretty good job. That's the repaired pipe that, like we said, we didn't know when it was put in, that was that for,
So it's all done?
the city, Jeremy and I and Tom had talked, and the city's gonna go ahead and let the excavation settle, then pave.
But the repair's done?
Repairs.
The
Repair's done,
the
we'll pave
utility
it.
is functional, and, we just gotta come back and dig out maybe 12 inches of the sand that's there now, we'll put some sub-base, gravel, down first, and then we'll patch it with blacktop for, till Elm Street, Park Street project, which is gonna get resurfaced anyway.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so we'll do the work? We'll do that paving work? It's not part of the,
No, I think that, we decided that was something that the city forces
Could do it.
undertake.
And that
Great.
isn't now, but what's going on there now is contractor, not city.
That's contractor.
yeah,
Yeah, we didn't have anything that could go to that
12
deep.
feet?
Well, I saw some big machines and I was like, oh man. I've
We didn't have
never-
any, we didn't have any trench boxes like that, or
Yeah.
machines that they used.
What did it cost, you know, to do the repair?
I don't know yet. We had an estimate, we had put out a request for estimates, and we only had one back, and it came in at 48,000. We thought that was,
It almost seems reasonable, doesn't it?
you would think, but it seemed like it was pretty high. So we went back and we asked both contractors to come back. We asked that contractor to come back and another contractor. And thought that we could get a better price.
Really?
And we also used the city forces with our combination machine for that con, so that if they could dig around the utilities so that they didn't hit anything.
Yeah, that's, yeah. Right.
So we were on site every day also. So I think it's gonna come in much less than that.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions? Next one, water service inventory.
Part of the EPA's new lead line inventory program is every municipality, every commercial water agency's got to identify all of their service connections, including the homeowners. So you have to know what's coming off your lines, and whether it's a lead gooseneck into a galvanized line, or a lead line, or a copper line. We seem to be in pretty good shape because we have a lot of our tap cards have identified a lot of the material that was used, but we also have to go through them and identify them. Before Steve left, he gave me a spreadsheet with an inventory that he thought that there was only probably 100 or so that was speculated as being lead. Not necessarily were, but we would have to go in and identify it. Since that time, EPA's expanded the thing, the program, for not only the city's side of the line to the curb stop, from the curb stop all the way into the homeowners. So, and this is just the inventory. It's not what you're gonna have to do or stuff like that, but it's gonna be pretty daunting for a lot of communities to go ahead and identify all of this. There were a couple of different programs we looked at. We looked at the city of Albany, and we looked at Queensbury's. And so part of that's in the back here, where we're going to probably initiate some communications with the homeowners, go down and identify and get back to us on what kind of pipe they got coming in, and so that it goes through a whole litany of things that you can do to identify that. And
Now galvanized gonna be,
it depends if they're galvanized. If it's soldered with lead, then it's, so. Again, this is only the inventory, and then we'll go from there. But we had like a community meeting here with a lot of the different surrounding communities, and at least, like I said, we have tap cards and things of that nature. We're going to go back out, and look at when the homes were built, what kind of materials were done. I guess back in '86, most people stopped using lead, so anything after that, you feel pretty confident, and you're able to. It's got to be audit-proof, so you have to be able to say, well, this is why we know it's not lead. But there are other communities that have no records that are going to have to go through every one of them. And if they call it potholing, which our backcon, you can go ahead and create a hole, and then you can see what kind of pipe it is. And then they'll probably have to replace. If it's lead, it's going to have to be replaced.
can't they tell from where it comes through the foundation into the house?
You can tell the homeowner's side, but
Yeah.
you can't tell the municipal side. The curb stop could be two different materials.
The homeowners got to test it?
Well, we're asking them to, and from what I've heard, it's been Queensbury's had a pretty good response. So once we get
But
some
they
more
wanna
information,
know.
we'll get some more information and probably some response, and then these guidelines are changing the same way as the ARPA money guidelines have changed.
Yeah.
There's been several iterations of them, so, and they keep changing them as the program's winding out. It's due October 16th of 2024. So, like I said, we were in fairly good shape compared to others, but that timeline's ticking now. So it's going to be a program that we're going to have to get in place, and we're going to have to be able to defend whatever results we do find.
Remember you had tap cards, you said? Remember we were talking about those are coming, I mean, they identify it.
Some of them
Yes.
do. There are some that don't have it on them. So hopefully, we continue to be in fairly decent shape.
Well, what's wrong with the copper?
There's nothing wrong with the copper. Copper's good.
Nothing wrong with galvanized, is
There's
it?
nothing wrong with galvanized as long as it's not lead solder joints.
But you've got to identify
But
which that it is.
You gotta identify,
That's
and, you know, like I said, it's a timeline. You can look at when the house is built, you can look at, you know, the contractor, what he usually used, things of that nature. So it's, we're going back in history and talking about
Yeah.
historical data.
So this is just an input from the meter, from the meter to the source.
No, it's from the main line all the way into the house.
Oh. Wow.
And it's, and they call it a 3-foot gooseneck, and they're saying if that's leaded, it's okay. I don't know how they draw the line, but that's, so, who knows if it changes, but these
So
are,
we're gonna
these are
s-
some of the requirements we're having to navigate through with these programs, because basically the EPA just really put the guidelines out.
Who's gonna pay for it? If you gotta replace the lead pipe in your house,
Well, if you gotta replace it in the house, I think it's the homeowners, but if you have to replace either the line from the street to the curb stop, or from the curb stop to the meter, those are probably gonna be on the municipality.
yeah, but
And I hope there's funding.
yeah, who can afford it, you know?
Exactly.
Yep.
That kind of goes against city policy of the curb stop being the end of the road, though. They have the ability to
Those were
come
other
in and
comments that came up.
tell us that
How
we-
can a public entity do work on a private property, whereas the insurance lines draw?
Yeah.
Where it becomes.
The precedent
a-
that's being stomped, like.
It becomes a litany of issues, you know. Well, you know.
They
I didn't
first
have any
pass the
problem.
rules, then you start to implement it, then they'll revise the rules and they'll let you know. And so we're in good luck that we have tap cards to start with, a lot of them.
Yeah, sure.
And we have a small handful that we know that we don't know, right? It's the unknown known, the known unknown, right? All right, so we'll start with the inventory, and by the time we're done taking our inventory, then they might change the rules a few more times in the
But
meantime.
that'll all be recorded if they go
That's
into
right.
the mayor's house and he said, no, that's galvanized, it'll be recorded as galvanized.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we'll
Yeah.
have a baseline to go from.
Yeah, that's basically what they're looking for. But they're looking for 100%.
Right.
Looking for every line that you have going into a house, every service line.
People can't afford this.
No.
It's just, if you got lead, you gotta tear out the walls and, you
Well,
can't
I think,
afford it.
and a lot of this has to do with, you know, issues that we've had. We sample a lot of different places for lead, and, you know, unless it's failing, it usually doesn't show up. So even in a lead service area, you know, so we could sample a house that could have lead service all the way through it, and we'll come up with nothing as long as it's not failing, or there's no impact and it's not leaching into the water.
oh,
So, I don't know how they can probably force homeowners. I mean, I think they could probably force, you know, apartment dwellings and things like that, landlords and things like that. They probably could, you know, homeowners, you know, this is my house, you're gonna tell me I gotta replace everything.
yeah.
You know, I'll have it tested every month, or
Well,
I'll
you'd
do
want,
something where,
yeah, I was gonna say,
you know, obviously if you have children and stuff, you would want it. But
Yeah, particularly if the municipality's gonna pay to bring it into your house. And you having to foot the bill for it, if it comes to that, right? It'd be crazy not to grab that.
But
Yeah.
it's the same thing we said, you know, public-private property,
Right.
you know, you digging on
Right.
someone's lawn and, you know, well, you didn't, that's not the seed I wanted, that's not, you know, that wasn't the way it
Oh,
was
yeah.
before you came here.
You have to
know.
hire a small crew to deal with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my foundation shifted because you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we get to that point, we're gonna have to be very careful, because this is just like what we went through up on, I can't remember the name of the folks, where just
yeah.
exactly that. They didn't like the grass seed that
Like
was
the
put
grass
down,
seed,
they didn't
like
like the fill, and it turned into a lawsuit, so we'll have to cross that bridge when we get to it, so to speak. Hopefully they'll be few and far between.
yeah.
Could you try to get some kind of a waiver?
Well, but
Something that-
you can, but we tried to do that before, and, they want money held in escrow. They want to be able to hire their own landscaper. The landscaper they wanted was 3 times more than the landscaper the city wanted to use, and it just got into
I remember that whole thing.
yeah.
over there.
Yep.
We'll let the next mayor worry about that. Let's get our inventory together.
I wanted to ask a different branch on that tree. All sorts of ideas with no help with practical implementation. But seeing the paper form here, and I kind of got thinking about people letting you in to change meters that are still mounted indoors, or transmitters or whatever, that kind of thing, and having to hound people. If this were somehow like a mail card or a door tag or something with a QR code, and I saw like submitting pictures is required, so there's physical proof, you could have that QR code take you to a site where like you fill in this field, now snap picture 1, now snap picture 2, and the whole thing just see you later, and they don't have to do anything. There's no envelopes, there's no I better get this mailed to the right address, or I forgot, or
Well, that's-
I don't know how expensive or complicated that is, or if in 2022 that's like falling off a log, but I just kind of thought like I think there'd at least be an ownership age level and down that would do that well and quickly, and maybe some paper too for people. My grandmother still like the internet doesn't exist to her. I get that, but I just thought that might.
So that's
be
what
help.
we're trying to do, and right now, we have a question out to the developer for the city's webpage to make a whole page for us to do that, and then we'll have to have mailers. Another thing that Queensbury and Albany did too is include something in the billing,
Oh, yeah,
a little flyer in
it's
the
already
billing.
going out.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
so that'll go out to everybody, including the people that get this.
Yep. We're in process of, I bet this will fit well into what you were just describing, that process into what's called See-Click Fix. It runs with our website. Somebody can walk down the street and see a tree that fell into the street, take a picture of it, it'll identify it, then anybody else walks down and sees it, tries to identify it, says, "This is the tree you're talking about," so you don't double report it. And when you get it fixed, when the crew goes and takes care of it, they can literally on their app, on a phone or on their iPad, and it'll upload, the tree is fixed, notify everybody of it. Probably do the same thing for this. So.
That's cool. I
Yep.
didn't know it was being worked on. That's good.
Yep, it's called See-Click Fix. We have there's some others that will allow us to communicate interdepartmentally too that we're looking at through the technology committee.
Cool.
All right.
Any other questions? Now, D, I know that the mayor has spoken a little bit about the electrical system upgrade progress. We're hoping to have that completed by the end of this week, because as I spoke a couple weeks ago, John Gold's going on vacation for two and a half weeks or something, so we want to have that. So hopefully that we can go through it, make any corrections, and hopefully have this out to bid for engineers somewhere maybe mid-October, Jeremy?
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah. So, we had a very good discussion with him on Thursday afternoon. Is that right?
Yes.
And talking about a couple different scenarios, and everything now is smart. Smart MCC, smart this, smart that. So we said we got one of the reps from one of the companies to go over what it meant and how it implemented and things of that nature. I think we're all on board with that, as long as it's doesn't add a lot of expense to the project, because we want to get as much done as we can with the amount of money we have. And if that's the case, where we can build in these smart things into the MCCs, and then at a later date run them to the SCADA or do something like that, we want to get everything. We want to get the biggest bang for our buck. So, if that includes the smart, that's great. If not, we can at a later date bring all that information. We'll have it locally, no matter where it is, but then have to get it from there to the SCADA system, or Chris's computer, or my computer, or Jeremy's computer, where we can just go ahead and look at that. Another way of looking at it too is it's an added level of protection. If you start seeing a motor ramp up in amperage and stuff, you can know that the bearing's starting to fail, rather than that thing had a catastrophic failure. You can shut it down, put another piece of equipment in, take that out, replace the bearings at a nominal cost compared to a full-blown repair, and put that back into operation. So there's both ways of looking at how the savings are and the efficiencies and things of that nature. Any questions on the electrical? Okay, I know the mayor and I have talked about this, and John Straw has contacted us about, he's got I believe, $150,000 grant to look at extending the Peggy Ann Halfway Brook Trail. It goes from Peggy Ann Potter all the way down Peggy Ann down to Old Forge and right to the intersection, the plug mill. So he's contacted the mayor. He said, I'd like to get the grant and do this, but I don't want to get the grant if it's a non-starter. So the mayor said, well, let's
Have you
bring it to
guys
the
all
board.
seen that map? Have you seen a map of it?
It's on the side of the road, right?
It is.
The reservoir side.
It says there's about 2 or 3 trees needs to be done, taken out in the entire thing. That meaning the trail is already mostly there. In his bigger map of this,
One more, Bill.
Mayor, it's clear that Mayor Hall and John had met to try to pull together. I believe you guys are all aware of the YMCA deal where we purchased the property at the end and trying to run the YMCA trail down along Coles Woods and it almost comes right to the head of Halfway Brook, right, is where that trail would end, right? So this is an effort, I believe, on Queensberry's behalf and Glens Falls' behalf. He certainly met with Mayor Hall about this, about making it so that these would connect. So this particular trail would bring people from the I'll call it the Potter Road connection, right? Right now the trail that they added a couple years ago was from Potter Road over to Peggy Ann. And then this leads down Peggy Ann towards the plug mill, right? And so this any of you are welcome to come to my office and see bigger picture. John in the grant also has the money to gate off all of the other old logging access roads that people are. He's asked you just recently to allow him to put a big stone in the way. He's found a lot of guys are riding dirt bikes into that lower watershed. He's stopped kids from doing it. He asked us for permission and we gave him, didn't we, just
Yes.
recently, the ability to put some large boulders in front of what he thinks is their most favorite place of entry.
With some signage.
And he's doing his own bit of education as he can. I'm not being for or against this idea. I just wanted you to know. And it was clear that they had developed this idea, and I kind of thought when I found it in my office, when I came to office, I thought you guys were already aware of it. And so now that you're not, I want you to become aware of it and tell me what your concerns are about it.
Many.
So we should talk about it. Right?
I think they should just have a small meeting and discuss the concerns, but I find it interesting that John's very active now in trying to seal this place up, and he didn't even want to hear from us before.
That's right.
When the issue was ongoing. And,
That's correct.
and
And they're still not really responsive for the upper watershed,
No.
if we can agree with
Exactly.
that. And there is a committee that's not meeting now. It would be me, you, and someone else. I don't know who the third person
I got
is.
an email from Chris. But I
We
don't-
should start meeting. Now,
Us three.
separately,
Yeah, okay.
right, that's regarding the John Strow. So there's a committee of people that are in charge right now of the again, I'll call it the Potter Road connection, right, that we've already put in. That committee has the power to shut things down if we don't like it, and that committee would be in charge of this too, if we wanted. This does not have anything to do with the findings of the. So, in addition, again, this is kind of seems a little inconsistent for me. So John and Mayor Hall had clearly worked on this, but yet at the same time, I don't know if Steve or Mayor Hall got the Chris Round grant to look at, maybe it's both, maybe it is, so to look at the spill, the potential for waste or spills in our watershed. That's a very small grant that's pretty much done. He's asking for us to meet, and we will meet. And there's a committee of people, and the finding is that as far as environmental spills, oil spills potential, that's what that grant is looking at. That there are very little as far as those kinds of things, right?
So
Those
watershed
things.
protection plan.
Yeah, the watershed protection plan. There you go.
Right.
And in that conversation, we talked about, the method of the city of Glens Falls. The attitude of the city of Glens Falls is that more people equals more pollution, that we need to shut people out of our watershed. We've been trying to shut people out of our watershed for a good 25 years or longer, and it hasn't worked. It hasn't been effective in stopping the people from our upper watershed. And this John Stroud would say, and it would be hard to argue with him, we don't have any data. It says that there actually is less polluting on our lower watershed because of this Peggy Ann thing. He certainly is patrolling it. There are Queensbury employees monitoring that plan every week and monitoring that trail, walking, looking for garbage, looking for people polluting, looking for any degradation of the trail. They're making sure it's clean, they're making sure it's maintained. And this would add more people, employees from the Queensbury Town Rec Department on our watershed. That's got to be a cut down of what was there, because there were nobody there except our employees and we have employees up there every week anyway, right?
At all of our reservoirs.
At all of our reservoirs, right?
Couple
But
times.
but this is adding more people to that, and it certainly is. We've got to at least admit that there are people more on the trail now than off, but still they're off, right? We know people are letting their dogs run into the trail and they're not supposed to. But that is not a source of when you talk about Chris Round's findings. Those aren't. Those are concerns that we have because we don't want people letting their dogs loose on our watershed. But they're not significant environmental concerns any more than rabbits defecating in those woods are a large concern. We have more. If we're really concerned about the health and wellness of the reservoir, we need to look at the invasive species that are in that reservoir and the sedimentation of our reservoir. Geese in our reservoir.
Yep.
Those are right. So I'm trying to not be for or against. I'm just trying to let you all know where and John is saying I can get this grant right away. We can get the money for it. We'll put it in, and we'll put up the gates on the far end. There is a concern, I think it was you, Chris, that brought up that those gates should have been done when they first put the first one in. I don't know, I can't close a gate that didn't get put in.
I don't know if he fulfilled all of his obligation in the first part of that one.
Yeah, I'd
He
have to
actually
look at
installed all
the
gates he was
agreement
supposed
and the
to.
checklist as to what actually
Yeah,
got
I
done.
don't remember.
I kind of got out of the loop once the legal side of it was done and
Yeah.
you guys were going to the meetings.
From what Steve had told me before he left, he said somehow that got left out of the
final.
final version.
Wouldn't doubt it.
In the little print, it was never included.
Doesn't mean we can't put it in this version if we decide to do this. I mean, I don't know that you got to think about the strengths and weaknesses of doing this. And it's funny, I really did think you guys were aware of this, because why else then would it make sense to put the walkway at the YMCA? Why else buy that property at the by the bridge, right? That property's almost
The plug mill property?
the Pug Mill property.
That was for a different situation.
Gotcha.
There was, remember that?
Yeah.
Some other.
Some other conversation for
Yeah,
another day.
yeah, that was-
But still, we're building a trail. We're building a trail, right? We've got the grant money to do it. We're waiting to finalize. I haven't heard from the YMCA since Michael Biddle retired, but before they still want to do that, right? They're purchasing part of that in front of the Crandall, in front of the YMCA, right? They need to put parking in there to solve our parking problem, theirs and ours. And when you have a hockey tournament and that thing, or you have any you know, there's a huge parking problem.
Yeah, they want to go through that. I think the delay at this point is the New York State legislature has to approve that because the city cannot give up public land that was created as part of a park unless the legislature approves of it.
Right.
Just like you saw when the Adirondack Park, they sold some of the Adirondack Park land privately. So I can't remember who's working on that, but I know somebody is.
So
Is
we'll
it
they
toward
will
Glen
do
Street
it.
from the parking lot now?
Say it again.
It'd be headed toward Glen Street from the YMC Park, where the monument is?
Yes, the
It'd be
absolutely.
expanding it toward Glen
It
Street.
goes right down. Well, wait, their parking lot?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. But the trail
Yeah.
that leads down on along the road gets the walkers now on the runners off of Fire Road, right, and comes around and comes to the property that we purchased.
Right.
And that property we purchased is magically right by where this trail would end. And the object would be to connect these things. I don't know that it makes sense to. Well, it does still get people off of Fire Road, and so it's not that it's not completely useful. But the point is that, right? John's looking at this connects a whole bunch of things, right? If you go to the other side, you're now almost Rush Pond is almost connected straight to Glens Falls, and then if you get to the walking path, the bike paths, you're connecting this area.
Right?
Say it
They
again.
would connect everything.
The master plan is to connect all these paths together. You can do the canal, then you can go to Whitehall or.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yep.
So I think that maybe think about this. Think about what you think about it. Let me know. Bill, do you have the full diagrams and the?
I tried to print it, it wouldn't print right. It was
Gotcha.
coming like a
So,
square. This
so
is the best
feel
I could
free to come in and get a look at it with Bill. Ask questions. Yes, thoughts.
Okay, what we're looking at here with this green line is or is part of, because I see the dotted there, is the
Mhm.
dotted a future proposed and the green is current proposed, or what?
Well, I think the green line is what's proposed.
Okay,
The
So
red,
that doesn't-
the like the slotted blue line is the one the
Yeah.
line that runs along Old Forge.
yeah, that's
That
like
may
where
have
Clark
to be,
Drive
that
and-
may even have to be like a little boardwalk, because there's really no room.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
it's right up against the fence.
It's
there.
right up against the fence, and there's very little land there. The fence would have to be moved. There'd be a whole bunch of stuff to do. to
I know
get
that around that curve, there's kind of a berm or something, right? Like little mound on the side of the road towards the reservoir side of the road. So I could get, maybe they want to go behind it, but not. I mean, I probably don't know enough to say this, but my first knee jerk is this would be cool on the side of the road, like not 30 feet in the trees, like on the side of the road, because if there's
But there's
markers-
already a path here.
This is that green line is what he's saying is already a trail that exists.
Yep. And he's
Sure.
saying that so it's there and people are already walking on
Yeah.
it.
Well, what I'm saying is, along that entire length of road, there could be ballards and things saying this is a trail, and all the
Yeah, please
the-
pick up your trash and don't
the
let your
truck-
dogs loose.
the 3 or 4 truck in roads that are there that always have dresser and leaf and whatever piles on them. It'd just be a lot more difficult. It wouldn't be as easy to back in, dump, and rock like
Yeah.
they seem to, because the trail would be there, and maybe some kind of, those little ballards kind of thing, where this is still, somebody, I don't know how deep in this is, but, could somebody still kind of sneak in there a little bit, dump, and take off, and
Gotcha.
it's still sort of, it's easy to still do, whereas this could be a bit of a barrier.
Say it again, Chris. Say it again. Tell me. So about the proposed trail that comes down along Peggy Ann Road, which is what we're talking about, that grant. Are you suggesting to move the entire trail from where it is to the side of the road?
A bit like it's like Jefferson, not Jefferson, Jerome and Fire, that path outside of Crandall Park.
Yes.
Once it goes around
Do
towards
something
Physics School.
more like that, and maybe some ballards and things to sort of mark it off, so that, because right now, like the sand patches, the huge sand patches that are there, and people pull in and then they access those
I
like,
do, but
road-sized.
I do, and so we need to find a way to stop people from being able to pull in and dump there. I'm with you there.
But if the trail was there,
So you want
bring
you want to move the trail? Let me ask a
Closer
question.
to the
You want to
road.
move the trail closer to the road, which is more of an environmental disturbance than what he's suggesting.
huh?
It's clearly there is a trail there that he's saying that all he wants to do is fix that trail up that's there.
He's gonna pave or cinder or whatever. I don't think it
No,
matters
no,
whether or not it's already.
I don't think he's paving.
No, he's putting, it's the same as, it's.
Same as
Same
what's
as the
on the
existing
Peggy Ann.
ones.
Yeah, there'll be
Right?
water edges and stuff so that, take the runoff away from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's cindered, right?
It's some sort of, trap rock or.
Yeah, it's a small stone with some,
Yeah, I mean.
Okay.
It's not.
So he's saying that if to do it where the trail currently is, he's got to remove less than a half a dozen trees in the entire thing. And that it's very little it's fixing up the trail that's there and then putting barriers on those trap areas that there is dumping. He is saying that. But what you're suggesting is to move that trail away from where it is,
Well,
which
now,
is
no, I'm not
Oh.
suggesting it with any authority. I am
No, it's
asking
okay.
and
Is that-
suggesting it because
right.
it would
So,
seem that
but-
it could be a natural gate of forested land. And like I said, I don't even know how far in this is topographically, if that's
It's-
12 feet or 30
yeah,
or 50
it
or,
literally-
but if it's
yep.
way in and
No.
there's still room to
That far,
get in
I
and
didn't know
dump
that was there.
and be undercover like that, I'm
Yeah.
curious
Hmm.
about that as a suggestion, not.
Yeah,
a
no,
drop
I mean,
dead.
I'm with you. I didn't mean
That's
it
gotta
in
be
a
an old
negative.
motorcycle trail then.
Yeah, I think it's based on
It's a walking
existing
trail.
condition,
Yep.
it's basically a walking trail that there'd be less impact doing that than,
Have to go over
as
and
Chris
take a
said, if we
look
bring
at
it closer to the road, we
And
may-
you gotta clear trees
gotta
and you
clear
gotta
trees,
make
you
a
gotta
new
do stuff like
path,
that.
or you'd have to extend the road itself.
And again, you
I'm
have
recollecting
houses
a
across
real
the street.
Wide,
I didn't know
there's
that
a
was there,
lot
but-
of clear area on the side of that road.
In certain locations there are, and I know what you're talking about, and you come around that corner, there's a lot.
Around that corner there,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, As you get down further.
I don't
to-
know, let me,
But
I'll
that's
tell you
the
what, I'll
spirit
try this
behind it
weekend.
is the thinking behind that curiosity. Is it more of a
Well,
a
it wouldn't be a
gatekeep?
nature trail, then it's a road walk, and that's not what John's interested in, just so, if I can argue John's point, right? John wants to take the trail that's there, which is in the woods, and keep it there, and make it nicer. And add barriers to stopping people from dumping, and says that more people there will have people dumping less, just like is currently happened at Peggy Ann. And he's got a point. They are manning that. He's cleaning dog poop up from that trail himself, and they're sending staff there to clean. Right? That's happening. And there is less dumping there
It seems
because there are
awful
more
recent,
people.
Because our monthly reports were saying since the trail there's been a huge increase. So that's got to be a current thing that he started doing then.
Well, that's at the upper, isn't it?
No, it's upper.
No,
There's
there was.
You're right.
There was something in our monthly meeting minutes like 4 or 5 months ago that said.
I
since
don't
that
think it's
went
the trail
in-
system, so I think it's adjacent to that, where it's always gone.
Yeah.
But I think
I think
we
that's
said something
important.
to
It's
him,
a
and that's when
question.
he was like,
I think
"Geez."
our issues with that trail were people leaving that trail.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
That's what they're saying, that there's less of that now because they do all of their patrolling.
Sure, but I'm
Like-
saying in the meeting minutes that we got for the mid-month meeting, it said, since this trail's been open, there's been more trash and dumping and grossness of whatever kind, however.
So whoever did that,
But-
will you speak to the staff and find
Yeah,
out if
because
that's
I
true?
think.
But I haven't seen it since, so I don't know if it
Yeah,
was a thing and then
well-
he got
No,
wind
it's
of
a
it
good
and
point.
then,
Maybe
and then it got
maybe
handled.
it's interpretation, because I think since that trail, I think they found other areas
Yep.
to go and dump into. That's what we were looking at, where previously, we weren't seeing those dumpings in these areas. But now, because of the trail, and because you have people walking it and a lot of people populating it, they're not, you don't have the ability to go there and dump.
The other concern I was thinking about is if this were to come all the way down Old Forge, it's not a concern, a curiosity. That intersection can get a bit Grand Prix, especially in school, in and out times. And with the hill that White House is on and the plug mill being so close to the road, and it would be cool if there was a better throughput of pedestrian traffic to get to that. Was it the Coles house or what?
The plug mill.
What is that house though? Was that the Coles house that somebody told me? I don't know if that's true. That we got a parking lot there now to get into the back of the.
Oh, the one that goes into Coles Woods?
Yeah,
Yeah, the one off Dixon Road.
but that's where it's headed, right? Is to kind of
Yeah.
join
Yes.
with that a bit.
Yeah.
And
That-
then come down Dixon Road to the.
Some sort of
but that
signage
intersection-
or,
I-
you know, blinking
That
lights or
intersection's
something
gonna
like
be
that,
tough,
yeah.
'cause it's.
That is a tough intersection.
At work time and stuff like that, there's, people going to work, there's a lot of traffic there
Yeah.
in certain periods.
I do school deliveries to Queensbury and head through the lot, and for years, my kid's sitter was up Peggy Ann
Yeah.
and a development off there, and there's a lot of like, if I get down to 15 miles an hour, that's good enough for a stop. And,
Yeah.
and it's just a lot of flying, and obviously the money is not gonna exist for some sort of overpass thing or something, but like, I don't know.
So you wanna incorporate the property of the plug mill, it goes back toward, to the northway from the plug mill itself, the factory, the old mill. Does he wanna incorporate that as a parking lot? in
He
this
didn't
plan?
mention any of that. It's not on the map. It's not described in, you go and look, when you look at the.
I know it's been mentioned another time, but John didn't say anything about it.
Because if that's a concern, a going concern or interest, to not have them joined up would be unfortunate. I mean, there's no money trees, but those are a couple of cool things, and that work you could get out to Monument-ish, and
Yeah.
I don't know, could you wind your way over to the Quaker Road Bridge?
No, you go on Garrison Road or Fort Amherst, and,
You wouldn't
pick
have
up
to,
bike path
Yep.
on Bay Road.
Yeah.
So
Either
in
way.
addition to this project? In addition?
I think they're
Oh,
trying to
yeah,
connect
yeah.
all of these so that you can get to all of them.
Right.
You know,
and
the other
that-
end, you can get to
bike
Rush
path, you can go-
Pond.
Yeah.
Then you go to seven combines and
Right.
whatever, and.
Yeah, I just feel like that trio intersection
That would
is,
go a long ways toward tying it up. And,
yeah, that trio intersection is kind of a rough spot
Yeah.
to put a bunch of people that are,
Yeah.
even if they're tourists, like that, I don't know, just not knowing that intersection too well, that seems like a rough spot, but I just mean that more of be nice to nail that constructively if it does continue on through. If it just stops where the green is, then that's a future conversation.
Has he looked at any alternative routes besides, Old Forge Road?
I'm just
Other
wondering.
than ending it there and coming this way into
I just wonder
the
if you
Hudson
come over to
Point
Hudson,
Trail.
what is it, the development there?
Hidden Hills?
Hidden Hills.
Well, you could actually almost go through, pick up Clark Road, which is Clark
Yeah.
Street,
That's
which is
it.
parallel to.
Is there any, those are all, there's no like empty lots to punch through, right? Like that's all residential built, and all those?
I think it's all about.
That would be sweet if you had something between two
Where's
people's
Potter
houses
Road
that
in this
Yeah.
map?
would just slide through and get you to the side of the Northway and then to the Coles
Yeah,
thing.
good luck.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody who's got a private property is gonna let a public trail go down through the middle
Yeah,
of it.
right.
This project was just
Right.
this. It actually
You
was-
won't even get a return phone call on that one.
Yeah.
You could, that
Where's
seems like.
the-
you-
It's like
Where's
National
the-
Grid with us when they wanted all that spot to put all the power line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I haven't heard back from them on that, by the way. They dropped
Yeah,
that
when they did
completely.
the original trail, yeah, they would have moved it.
Yeah.
Is this just a walking area?
My guess is they're probably trying to talk to the homeowners now.
Most of
They're on the other side of the road.
Built on the side of the road,
Alongside Peggy Ann.
and the fence would be on
It's-
the side of
It's
the
tough,
road.
I ride my bike
Because
down
it's just,
through there.
there's no room.
And so Chris,
Isn't
you're
that
you're
taking
suggesting
away
that,
from the down through there?
so he's got at the end of this, he's got the boardwalk that we were talking about that goes right along the side of the road. You think that it ought to continue as a boardwalk or as a trail, but along the side of the road, not in the woods? That's it's a possible
I'm curious
suggestion.
about what
Why
that may-
we're not thinking about that?
what that may offer gatekeeper wise. Or
Would it
not.
help? Would it help with the gatekeeping?
Yeah, and you wouldn't have to put up gates because it would be trail and balance across, those, or whatever. It's just as a suggestion, but if
Mm-hmm.
it's clear that and
Well,
uh,
he makes it sound, and it's been years since I've been there, so I think that we should look, and you guys should. I want you to see this. I want you to think about it. I want you to think about the pluses and minuses of it, right?
And Ron had a good point of you can't be too close to the road because people use that to test out the horsepowers, as it were.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it
But,
shouldn't be on the other side of the white line exactly.
So think about it. Let's in 2 weeks. Let's bring it back up just as a discussion point in our meeting. Okay. Think about what you like or don't like.
at some point?
What's that?
Should we get together with that committee at some point?
We should. I didn't want to meet with him until we thought of, until I had an impression of whether you guys thought this is a good idea or a bad idea. They clearly, Mayor Hall and John had talked about this. They clearly had, because I had the map in my office. And John had already written, this grant is already written, ready to be submitted. And he's like, so tell me, when are we ready to go? Because this will help. And anytime I said, well, when are we meeting? He said, yeah, it'd be great to meet about
Vaguely
this.
familiar.
Yeah. And I don't think it, to be honest, I don't think it helps or hurts. I don't think it hurts. I don't think that
I think
the
that
Peggy
ship
Ann
already
the
sailed
Peggy Ann
through the
Trail,
woods.
as much as it irritates me that it's listed in Queensberry's flyer. I got a flyer for the Peggy Ann Trail. It's great. Doesn't list Glens Falls at all. It's one of their trails on their flyers, encouraging people to go walk.
I've yet to see any town of Queensbury people anywhere near that trail. It's really news to me that they're maintaining it.
Yeah, they're there on a regular basis. I asked for.
How long that's been going on?
Well, it's like all their trails. They have to walk and protect.
But you said-
He's considering it their trail.
But I've never seen any maintenance people out there at it or anybody patrolling it.
Yeah, I don't.
Any of
I
the
don't know.
trails, actually. I've never even
Right,
seen
I guess,
anybody
right.
on Rush Pond, which probably doesn't need it particularly.
Yeah. Well, I know in one case he showed me all the dog garbage they're cleaning up from it, and that was. But he's also, we're there every week. I have people that are full time that do nothing but go through Rush Pond, all those trails, especially in the summertime.
I'm not doubting it. I just
You haven't seen
I
it.
guess
I haven't either, to be
it
honest.
seems new to me. It's happening.
And it might be, but at the same point, if there's a problem and something gets dumped on there, I have no problem calling John up and saying you got to fix it. That was the result of the dog. Remember the article in the Chronicle, right? There were photos people posting of John cleaning up all the dog feces. So maybe it's him we're paying, but the point we're not paying, but he's doing that. So there's a benefit. What's the downside of having that? If there is, we do need to clarify. Is there been, do our staff that were cleaning up and are responsible for our watershed, do they feel, my impression was there's less dumping on that lower watershed right now than there was 4 years ago. But if that's not the case, we need to stop right away and say, we haven't solved this problem.
I couldn't say for certain that there is less or more. I don't know.
Maybe
So
I
if
haven't-
not,
I
then-
haven't seen that in those mid-monthlies, so maybe it was a thing and it
They
got
probably
talked about.
Probably the water guys would have a better idea if they go over to
Well, that's what we're doing. We're documenting
Yes.
it now, and over the weekend, just nothing to. You can see this is the key. The
It's a
gate,
segue.
in the Keenan Reservoir was wide open, and half the gate was even taken down.
They cut it?
No, well they moved
Broke it?
You can see where it is. It's off its post.
They just lifted it up and moved it off the post.
It's on hinges, so that it's locked. So they moved it. So we put it back together. We made a police report, and it's all documented, and it's back that was repaired that day. So.
You
And
can
that's
get a
what
gate,
we're-
you can get a gate cable to lock it to the post.
Mhm.
We have to do that on our farm gates.
Yeah.
Put gate cables on them.
So I think we need to put some cameras up.
Yes, we do. We've got that in the ARPA technology. We need cameras that can be moved from time to time, all over. We want to have some that can be used both in the watershed and also throughout the city.
But they said that the sheriff's department isn't very concerned with the whole thing.
No.
I mean, when you do see people sitting there,
Well, that's why I asked for more. Right now, the reports are up until recently. The reports have been dumping here, and that's not enough. We need actual dates and times and what we found and what we didn't
Well,
find.
Didn't you get some license plates? Did you take pictures of some license plates over there one time?
I've been doing that for years. You know, every time I go past there and see something, I take a photo, and I got a little folder, probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 dozen photos of cars pulled over in those spots. But It doesn't, you know, like Steve was saying, you hand it off to the cops and they're like, that's cool. You know,
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
don't think
doesn't-
I don't think
Well, it's
they're
not a
worried about
priority
our
with them, but I just
trespassing at
don't know
all.
whether, you know,
Yeah.
we were coming out of there one day from inspecting one of the reservoirs, and the sheriff department drove by, he didn't even look at us. I'm sure he's going someplace else or had something, but anyway, I'm not saying that.
No, we gotta look at it.
Yeah, we got to tighten up the security, especially up above.
Absolutely.
Somehow.
No executive session that I'm aware of.
Personnel.
Oh, personnel, sorry.
Just one thing I have with personnel is, our electrician's gonna be retiring in November, so, Judy has done an internal search and now an external search, and we really have no, viable candidates right now, and nobody's even responded. I think it's because of the compensation, so we're gonna have to take a look at that, see what we have to do to get some individuals that would be
Did you talk to
interested.
the apprenticeship program? See, maybe you got somebody coming out of an apprentice looking for a position.
We have not. I'm not sure that's a good fit for here, for an apprentice.
No, I mean
and
somebody that's
start
graduated
working on
from
that
school and-
stuff. No, but we can go ahead and do that.
I
We
don't
can
just-
contact. I know she put a lot of the stuff out, and I guess as Chris said, we were fortunate enough to get the gentleman that's in the position now. He's already retired from a different position, so it wasn't the compensation that was affecting him as much as the ability that he still wanted to work a little bit. No, he wants to just be retired. So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention. So we'll be looking at that, see what we can do. We're working with Judy, Chris is working with Judy. And that's basically all. I don't know if executive session.
Nope.
Don't have anything.
Next proposed dates, September 19th, 2 p.m. and October 3rd. And let's further the conversation about that, the trail and the other issues that we might have. I think Chris Round has reached out to you guys to set some potential
Yeah,
times
is,
to finish
third and
up
fourth
that.
of October or something?
I think he was looking at some of those dates.
He is suggesting an education piece. One piece of the results of that is an education piece with the town of Queensbury about using our watershed and trespassing on the watershed. So that's one piece. It's the only thing, though. He didn't look at this at all.
Mhm.
Wasn't part of that grant. Okay?
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Right.
So primarily the plug mill was picked up to annex all of the watershed property into the city of Glens Falls. You can't annex unless you have contiguous municipal access to your property. And under the water sewer agreement with the town of Queensbury, one of the terms in there is that Glens Falls would agree not to annex any properties.